After the New York Knicks beat the Boston Celtics in their very first preseason game, we went live on Twitter Spaces with our very special guest, Knick legend Charlie Ward. He broke down the game, gave us game analysis. He also told us about Julius Randle and what he doesn't like about his game. He also told us how Jalen Brunson can be a better defender. He answered fan questions. But more than that, he gave us the perspective of how it's like to be coached under Tom Thibodeau. Because if you remember, back when he played, Tom Thibodeau was part of the coaching staff. And he remembers how it feels to play under Tom Thibodeau. We're going to look into this and everything he had to say after the game. This is going to be a very, very good post-game special. I hope you guys enjoy it. Roll it.
Now, we have our guest here, Mr. Charlie Ward himself, the Heisman. Put your hands together. Show some love for our Knicks alumni, the legend himself. Mr. Charlie Ward, how was your summer? How are you? How was your night? What do you think of this Knicks team, this new Knicks team? What do you think of what we was doing last year? How are you, my friend? How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. I appreciate you having me on, and I got a chance to watch a little bit of the start of the second quarter. I coach high school basketball here in Tallahassee, Florida State University School, and we were having a little fall league practice, so I got a chance to catch them later. But preseason is a great opportunity for guys to get some run, get in a little game shape, put some time in. From a coaching perspective, you get a chance to look at guys in different situations. As the caller before, it's hard to put stock into the preseason, but it is good evaluation time for guys in different roles. And tonight you saw the two big lineup, and some of the things that they're capable of doing from a defensive standpoint, and then offensively, what they look to do when they're in the game. All those things are things that you can look at on the video, and kind of put a plan together if you should happen to have that lineup. And of course, quickly when he's starting. And there's no Jalen Brunson, and so he goes off for 20 plus points once again, and he's like that. That's what you need from him. He'll probably he will get more time this year on the floor, which is a good thing for us when you start thinking about his production moving forward. It just has to be consistent, like anyone else. Um, I like Fournier shooting. DiVincenzo, I think he eventually will be a good shooter. I think at some point we're going to need to have shooting on the floor, just like any team. But I'm just not a big fan in the one-on-one type of play. So hopefully we can find a way to minimize that play because it plays a big part in being stagnant on the offensive end. So hopefully we can get to a point where we can have more ball screens, more slip screens, and movement while someone may be going one-on-one. So hopefully we can make that adjustment this year to be better in that regard. We have very good one-on-one players, but I think it's just a matter of just trying to find the right times to do it and make plays for others, which is important for you to be successful. Defensively, I thought they had great energy. Everyone was working together.
Amazing.
And that's one of the things that Tibbs brings to the table. That's like a non-negotiable, and they'll be prepared and ready to play each and every night. So I look forward to seeing how they will continue to compete on the defensive end. But overall, I thought it was a good first preseason game. Got a chance to see a lot of different guys in different situations. Those that got an opportunity to play, and as the preseason progress, you'll see more of certain guys because I know they're trying to evaluate certain roster spots and all those types of things. And so, just be interesting to see how it all shakes out.
Absolutely, Charlie. That's amazing. Thank you so much for that breakdown. Actually, it's so
Facts.
rare that we hear from from a player who's been there, who's done it, and what you actually want to see. Because I think actually, if you talk to most of the fan base, you talk to them quite a bit, they'd actually agree with you. They want to see a little bit more ball movement. They want to see more people involved. They want to kind of see the ball not stick with one particular player. That's why when we kind of see some of the same offense kind of with Tom Thibodeau at times where players like Quentin Grimes, for instance, who's a really good cutter at times, but with the starting unit, he normally gets put in the corner and is really relegated to just 3 and D. Can I ask your opinion just on Quentin Grimes and how you think he's being used in the starting lineup? You think he's being used effectively, or could he be used a little bit better, in your opinion?
But one of the things that we always have to evaluate is how does one fit, because every starter has to fit according to who's on the floor. And Quentin Grimes can be that guy who can stretch the floor with the shot, and he plays great energy on the defensive end, and he drives the ball well, and he cuts well. So I think he has to find his way to be able to be productive in what they're doing. A lot of times, the coach gets the blame for stagnant, and those types of things. But a lot should go back to players understanding, because just talking to and being a coach now, you want to put the onus on the players to be able to talk through what they want to do. And so I just think it's one of the things that we would like to see. I know I would like to see. I'm sure a lot of other people like to see guys elevate in that area of being able to talk out whatever the actions they may have, because you saw a little bit of that tonight um, when Randle was backing down and he didn't have an advantage. He went into a back down, and then he went and did like a dribble handoff with someone to be able to create more action um, and confusion with the defense. And so I know from an offensive standpoint, everyone probably doesn't like what they are doing, but they do enough to be able to get whatever it is that they're looking for, and then they have different options off of that. And I think Quinn Grimes, of course, everyone can be used better and more effective in some form or fashion. But when it's all said and done, uh, everyone has to play a role. I know that's big for Tibbs. And when Quinn Grimes is in the starting lineup, he has to play a certain role. And then when he's not in the starting lineup or he's on the floor with other guys, then he may be able to do some things that we get a chance to see in the summer league because he's on the floor with different guys. And so, rotation plays a big part. Who's on the floor with certain guys, and that's kind of how you dictate from a coaching standpoint. That's kind of how you set your lineups, and you want to have certain guys on the floor that can do different things. But at some point, it comes down to the players buying into wanting to move the ball and move bodies and make it happen.
As Knicks fans, we've been through a lot of losses. It's been hard times. Many times we have to joke with the NBA, but now you see the Knicks have made the playoffs 2 out of the last 3 years. My question to you is, how do you feel about this front office? You have a part of the fan base that wants to see us get that star. You have part of the fan base that wants to stay where we're at right now and just build the team up, and you have some fans that just don't really care too much. So, are you satisfied with this front office? Because it just seems like they're not doing enough to compete with the Bucks, the Celtics, the Miami Heat, maybe even Philly.
Yeah. One of the things that you know, everyone in this day and age, they love instability, instant gratification. That was
Yeah.
what the New York Knicks used to be when we had like five GMs in like 7 years. I mean, everyone was complaining about the team at that point. We weren't winning, and now that we have an opportunity to win and we have stability in the front office, even though of course everyone's not going to agree with decisions that's being made. Um, who's been brought in, and we're looking around at who's who the other teams have, which the other teams are making decisions and moving and shaking and what have you. And they're building their roster to what they feel is competitive roster in the East or West, wherever it may be. But I just think when you have stability in front office and everyone's working together and on the same page in some form or fashion, you can get more out of what you're doing. But of course, instability breeds instability, and when we start to change, front office once again, um, you go back to that instability in leadership. And so once you change the front office, and then you change the coach, and now you got a whole new voice. You got to change the roster, and sometimes that takes time. And so it's just a matter of seeing what they're doing and what they want to do and how they're building their roster. It comes down to guys playing their roles and being competitive. I don't know if this is a championship team, but a lot of other teams, they feel like they have a championship team because they made moves. And I feel like sometimes that's what people feel like the Knicks should be doing consistently, making moves. But they've it goes to show you sometimes knowing the system does help. And then you bring in a couple of people here and there, but as a organization, you have to do what you feel is best for your group, and sometimes it may not be the best at that time, and sometimes it may be. We just have to continue to work it out, and live it out in a sense. I'll just say, a lot of people, when I was in New York, they every year, um, they wanted someone that had a bigger name. Um, every year I was being traded, and so those were that's just what it was. And but I had to go and put my head down and do the best that I could do, and we were able to win. Be in the playoffs, ended up going to the finals. And so I just think sometimes you just have to find the right fit for your group, and not look at the outside to determine if you're being successful or not, or have a chance
That's
to
a
win.
fact. Wow.
I'd like to see this team um, continue to build like it's doing, but we need to make a key addition. At what position do you think would be the best place for this team to add for somebody that could, help elevate this team to another level?
I'm not 100% sure, but what I do know is we need R.J. Barrett and Julius Randle. Those two guys, we got to have them being consistent on both ends of the floor. I think we a lot of times we try to look at people who may come in from the outside, but since we do have those guys and they're going to be playing, I think they have to elevate their games on both ends and be consistent each and every night. Because there are other guys, that that are role players that's playing a certain role. I think they're capable of doing what they're currently asked to do. Mitchell Robinson is another guy from an offensive standpoint. Being able to finish around the basket, even make some mid-range jumpers around the basket. I'm not asking him to do much of anything, but be a force when he rolls. That will definitely open up some of those driving lanes for the guards that are driving the basketball and on pick and rolls. Of course, he needs to get better shooting free throws to be able to help out. But I'm not sure. To your question, I'm not 100% sure who on the outside would be a good fit for this group, because that means you're going to have to replace a couple of other guys or replace someone with that person
Well,
that you're looking to bring in.
I have a question for you about Jalen Brunson. I have a huge issue with Brunson as far as him shooting a lot and him not playmaking. Should I be less focused on him playmaking? Is that Tibbs asking him not to play make and Tibbs asking him to be more aggressive and shoot the ball more? Or is that just his mindset being a point guard? Like, I got to take these shots because I don't trust these other guys to get the job done. Like, what is in the mindset you think of Jalen Brunson as far as being the point guard?
Well, one of the things that you have to understand is there are certain guys. Well, every point guard has a certain role, and his role is he's very ball dominant, and he's very good at making decisions. And so, a lot of times, you don't mind him having the basketball because you know that he's going to make the right decision. But I mean, Jalen's been Jalen that we know of since we've known him, right? I mean, since college, he's kind of been the same player. When he went to Dallas, he was a very similar player, and now that he's in New York, he's a similar player, and
Got a
he's
point.
very productive in at doing what he does. He does shoot, but he also gets others involved as well.
I agree.
But he's that's who he is, and you just have to either appreciate it, because he does make the right decisions for the most part. It's hard to take the ball out of his hand when he's on the floor, when he makes good decisions, whether it's his own shot or getting others involved. And so that is who he is. You're either going to hate him or love him. But one of the things you can admire about him is his savvy. He's very savvy. He understands the game. He knows how to play the game. And he does get others involved, even though he's ball dominant. I mean, unlike some guards that we've come to know. Um, I'm not calling names, but he's currently in Dallas at this point. Um, that's different. That's a different type of ball dominant. So
Okay.
that's what I mean by either you're gonna love him, but the one thing I do admire about him is he does get others involved, um, even though he's ball dominant.
So, last question. When it comes to me with point guards, specifically, I always attribute the point guard's greatness to how many players next to him he makes either all stars or millionaires, right? So, who is the young player you think this season that will pop or become something that we want that person to be because of Jalen Brunson?
That is a very good question. Um, because I mean, when you start thinking about who they have on the roster, I mean, who do you think could be that guy? I mean, you got R.J. Barrett, who was. I mean, they've kind of been in some form of an all-star. I mean, they've been to the games that first and second year players played in. Julius Randle was an all-star, I think, last year. Um, but that's a very good question on who he can get to that next level. Emmanuel quickly is the same way. I mean, they're very similar players in a lot of ways. Um, so you can't play them I mean, you can, but it's hard to play them together in a
What,
lot of
what,
ways.
ch- ch- my fault, OG. Do you think Quickly and Brunson, you would you start them together?
So I'm just curious, who would you take out of the lineup?
I would take Grimes. Um,
Who?
I think Quickly's aggressiveness and the way he could play on ball is further along than Grimes. So I
I
think
agree.
Quickly would be the better option. This is just me.
Okay, so I'll share this with you. This is just my take, and I've been around a lot of coaches. I've played for some great coaches, and now that I coach, um, I do very similar things. One of the things that you want to do is you want to have balance um, in all your groups for the most part. And so if you take Grimes out of the starting lineup, and then you have quickly playing, even though it's probably going to end up playing more minutes, which I'm sure he's capable of doing. Um, Now your bench, you may not have the scoring that you need coming off your bench consistently, but you can bring quickly off of the bench for Brunson at the point guard spot, and then you have a better bench production, point guard behind him, and what have you. So sometimes it's not about it's about fit, and what you really want to do with your lineups. And yes, those. I mean, I'm sure if you may be able to see that in some of the preseason. If I was me, I would see if that was something we could explore in the preseason. That's what the preseason's for, to see how it works. Because if it does work, then that's something that you potentially could do at some point, if that's what you choose to do. But that's a good observation, and good thought process as well.
I'm a huge Obi Toppin fan, and I felt like it was an egregious mistake the way that we used them, and I felt like we should have never traded them. I just gotta know, right? So I always felt like they should have played Randall and Obi together to see how it looked consistently. Obviously, we didn't do that. Would you, the year that we drafted Obi Toppin, would you have just kept them together and just found a way to have them coexist together, or you would have traded Randall and just took your chances with Obi and just go with him rather than the way that we handled it this past season?
Well, um, Julius Randle, I do believe, has a place. Uh, I'm just not a big fan. I know he scores the ball really, really well. I'm just not a big fan of the ISO type of game, which is hard for me to watch. I mean, it's hard for me to coach it. It's hard for me to watch it. I just like movement from move the ball, move bodies, and then make quick decisions. And so I just think you're starting to see a lot of that in most offenses where when the Knicks are playing at their best, and let's just you can go back a year or two when they were playing at their best is when they were playing with movement. The ball was moving, players moving, and they were getting the shots that they wanted, getting the matchups that they wanted at some point off of movement. But I was just a big Obi Toppin fan just because of the way he played the game, and so to me, he would have had a place on in the rotation consistently, to where we could use his skills. Uh, you know, he shot it well. I thought he got to a point where he was just shooting the three too much because he wasn't getting opportunities on the floor. I do believe, and he became like a 3-point shooter as opposed to what we're probably seeing be more of now that he's in Indiana. So, I I mean, you could have played both of them. One at small ball five, like a Draymond Green type of setup. Even though Randall's not like uh, that type of player. But if you want to go with a smaller lineup, then yes, that would work. Um, and found a way to make it work in times. You can't major in it, but you can find situations where you can minor in it and see what you can get out of it for a short period of time. And if it does work, you can always go back to it or stay with it. You see it all the time in the NBA or college or wherever it may be, where you're trying to find the best matchups possible.
I
Wow.
love that tweet.
What an amazing answer, Charlie. I mean, first of all, the Julius Randle take, I think a lot of Knicks Twitter would absolutely agree with that. The isolation play that you've mentioned, I think many of us up here have lauded him the same way, just regarding to see more ball movement in the lineup, because we all kind of seen, without throughout the league, ball movement kind of helps in regards to everybody touching it, everybody being focused, locked in. It just helps everybody together. So I absolutely agree with you 100%. I think that's very, very important. Let's go over to Rels. I think Rels hasn't asked the question yet. Rels, are you up here, brother? You there?
Yeah, I'm here. Did everybody else get a chance to go first?
I think we only got Cassius left. You want Cassius to go first before you go?
Yeah, he was up here before I was.
Got you. Cassius, man, what's going on, brother? You want to ask your question to the great Charlie Ward?
I just want to tell Mr. Charlie Ward how much I appreciate him and his play during the course of the seasons that I got to watch him. Taking us to the finals and things of that nature, man. You were one of the good guys, man, and I appreciate everything that you did. I don't have a question for you, man. You answered all my questions through the panel already, but I just want to say how much I appreciate you and what you brought to the table to this team, man.
Well, I appreciate that. Um, I was grateful to be able to have an opportunity to play in the NBA, and I wanted to make the most of it. And as I mentioned, about role playing, I had to find my role, and I played to the best of my ability. Um, so I was grateful to be able to play with some great players that kept me around, and I was grateful to be able to be in New York, where I got a chance to, be in the city and kind of enjoyed my stay, for 9.5 seasons, which is crazy.
We thank you for all of it. I think anybody who's grateful enough to watch still remembers all the great you did for us at that point in time. We were still kind of, even before you got there, we were still kind of, I think we always kind of were looking for a guard. And I feel like, obviously when we got you as well, I feel like, another answer to that question. Jalen Brunson, another answer to that question. I feel like it's great to be able to talk to you and pick your brain about some of this stuff, because we don't get the opportunity, like I said, at all to speak with players like you of your greatness. So again, really a lot, Charlie. Thank you so much for doing this for us. We just got one more guy up here. I think actually two more people actually up here. All right, do you have enough time for a couple more questions, Charlie?
Sure.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much, man. Let's go over to Rels. Rels, what's going on, man? What's your question for Charlie today?
What's going on to the panel and everybody in the room? Charlie, thank you for being with us today. As well, it's kind of like two questions. The first question is, you guys went to the finals. It was some type of chemistry, some type of fire. Do you see that maybe with this roster or maybe in the future roster? So my question to you is, what do you think management or coaching need to do better to kind of get these guys in line, if not to the finals, but deeper into the playoffs?
Yeah. We were blessed to be able to have, a lot of teams. They have the basketball in their hands. From an offensive standpoint, you're expecting them to make good decisions the majority of the time. And so that's why, having a guy like Jalen Brunson, you know, is very important. Quickly is another guy that's very important to what we're doing. I'll just say it. I just need to see Julius Randle, if he's going to be a main guy that's going to have the basketball in his hands, he has to find a way to make other guys better. You see Giannis and some of those other guys who are very similar styles in some form of fashion that has the ball in their hands, and they make other guys better. I just I just think at some point, if we're going to go to the next level, We know about the guards and what they do. Julius Randle is going to have to be able to make other guys better around him when he's facilitating or being a facilitator. And I thought at one point last year he was doing a very good job of that. And it just has to be consistent over the course of his time. Another guy is R.J. Barrett as well, trying to find his role. He wants to be, or I'm not sure what they're asking him to be, but he wants to be a scorer. Wants to have the ball in his hands. But I like it when he's looking to slash and be a better 3-point shooter. I think if he can improve in that area, I know he'll help elevate the team as well. It's just something about some of the guys when they played, on their national teams. This summer, when he played on a national team, he was a different type player. But I think if he can continue to elevate his game, it can, help the Knicks get to the next level. I'm not sure if they're a championship type team with the other teams that are out there, but you never know what chemistry can. I mean, chemistry can do a lot. When you're playing with great chemistry, guys are working together offensively and defensively. A lot of times we talk about the offensive end, but if they're working together defensively, Mitchell, Sims, guys are protecting the rim. Guys are staying in front of one another or helping each other. Like I saw tonight, we had a lot of great uh, X outs, I call them, on the weak side when the ball got stopped at the basket, and weak side guys were, helping each other. That is what you need if you're going to be a championship team. You got to be able to help each other on the defensive end to get stops. So they have what it's going to take to, in my opinion, make the playoffs. I'm not sure if we're championship type team at this point, but you never know what chemistry can do later on when you start to learn one another, what they like to do, spaces on the floor. But it also helps to have the same guys, on the roster uh, because you kind of understand and know what they like to do because you've been playing with them for 2 or 3 years.
What advice would you have for Jalen Brunson to be better of a defender at his size? Because besides him taking charges, which really puts his health in peril a lot, how could he be better and make more of a statement on defense at his size?
Well, as I mentioned, certain players are certain players. I mean, you think about Steph Curry for a long time. His mo on the defensive end was he was a liability, and he continued to work on that. And now he's a guy that prides himself on getting stops. And I think Jalen, a lot of times I think he's defensively, he does the things that win games. I wasn't the best one-on-one defender, but I was a very good team defender. So I was always like Jalen, very similar, in the right spots, ready to take charges, put your body on the line, whether it's dive on the floor for loose balls, be ready to help when guys are in danger from a offensive standpoint, a defensive standpoint. And I think he's very similar. But in this day and age, they search out the weak links in a lot of ways, and you just have to stand up to the challenge. And I think he's willing to do that. It's just a matter of time. Or this year, he has to prove to himself and to others, like your question, you probably questioning him in his one-on-one defense. But I just think it's a pride deal. But more importantly, it's something that your teammates have to know. If you have a guy that they may be going at consistently, then you have to be willing to help a little bit more, and then scramble from there. But I think at some point, from an individual standpoint, which he does have pride, that he's going to, bow his neck, as I call it, and step up and take on the challenges that come before him. But in this day and age, man, they got guys that they ISO, do a lot of isolation, and they're very good at it. And so you're going to give up some points. Even the best defenders give up points. Um, but I think he's not a defensive liability in the sense of where yes, people attack him, but he does work to try to do the right thing defensively.
Thank you. Good answer. Thank you.
And good question too, Brutus. That was a really good question. I like all the speakers today, man. We got really good questions going on for Charlie today. I think you gave some great highlights, Charlie. I'm telling you right now, I'm gonna clip that Julius Randle thing about 1,000 times and try to put it on loop because I think it's something that everybody absolutely needs to hear. I think isolation play should be a little bit more gone for the New York Knicks, and we should really push that team play. We need more assists. I think we were one of the bottom teams in the league in terms of moving the ball last year. We have to fix that if I think we want to compete with one of the top tier teams. And just speaking about the teams in the East, I haven't really got a chance to ask you about that. Obviously, with the power shift in the East now, with Milwaukee and Boston being so strong and and all the power shifting over there. Where do you see the New York Knicks, given the roster that they have, the upgrades that they made, and just the current status of the East? Where do you see the New York Knicks kind of ending up or fitting? I know it's kind of hard to say right now, but just if you could give a prediction, where do you think you see the New York Knicks ending up when it's all said and done this season?
Well, I mean, those top two teams or teams that you just mentioned definitely are in the mix because of who they have on their roster. But I do believe the Knicks are in that next tier, where they could be, a fourth seed, fifth seed, somewhere in that area, um, or they could be, six or seven seed, depending upon who gets hot and how they play during the year. The depth component comes into play as well throughout the year. And no one's talked about it, but the in-season tournament. Someone I was with, actually with Scott Perry this weekend, USA Basketball, and we were talking about the in-season tournament and how that could play a big part, not for probably the top tier teams, but gaining some momentum for a team that not that they would take pride in winning it, but it can help catapult the mindset of what it takes to win and be a champion. And so a lot of times, people they want to poo-poo on the in-season tournament in a sense, but it could definitely help build the momentum of a mindset of what it's going to take to win consistently. And so if I was a coach, that would be something I would be sharing, not so much to win the in-season tournament, but the mindset of what it takes to put yourself in that realm of being a champion. And so I see them, being in the middle of the pack, or in that second tier of teams that will have a chance to vie for, like that third, fourth, fifth, spot, which is kind of where they were last year.
Absolutely, absolutely. I actually agree with that. I have them around 4 or 5 as well too. I think the third spot is open depending on what happens, and whoever gets off to a hot start, I think can absolutely take that. But I absolutely agree.
I'll take one more.
Cool.
I'll take one last one.
One last one. Let's go to. Please don't hate me, anyone. Let's go to AG.
How you doing, Charlie? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I can hear you.
Yeah, man. I just want to say, man, I still got beef with PJ Brown for what he did to y'all, boy. Man, that hurt my heart as a kid. So, I just want to, man, you was a warrior back in them times. But I want to ask you Tibbs question because I remember Tibbs was an assistant coach with the Knicks back in '96.
That's right.
So I'm not sure how much experience you had with him on the coaching staff, but
It's a
What
very
what are
good
your
question.
thoughts on Tibbs as a coach for today's NBA player? From your perspective as a one-time NBA player, played at a high level, played in the finals, and you had that close connection with Tibbs, unlike some other players that we may have spoken to in the past. Do you think he's a coach that could take the Knicks to that level?
Well, yes. I mean, he was with us in New York, and then I played and coached with him in Houston. And he's old school, like as am I. But one of the things he's learned is how to adapt to the new age um, athlete, pro athlete, and still working to learn to communicate with them and hold them accountable while giving them the opportunity to lead. Um, he's very prepared, and a lot of very prepared. That's just, I mean, you want a coach to be that way. He's meticulous in his game planning. He's big on rotations, as we all know, which is a good thing. I mean, every team who's successful, has a rotation, and everyone in the rotation has a role that they're asked to play, because that's what they feel is needed to be able to help the symphony play and help the symphony play well together. And I think he has what it takes to get them there. It's gonna take the players taking ownership of what he's given them, and having input, which I know he has great respect for Jalen, um, because he knows him, and he's giving him some ownership. Like Jalen can have input into kind of what's going on, and I think that's something he's definitely grown in that area. Which in this day and age you have to, and you want your players to be that, because they need to take ownership of what's going on the floor, whether it's offensively or defensively, or even in situations. But um, a lot of people give Tibbs, what is it, a hard time. But I think he prepares the guys properly. Um, and the offense is what it is, but the players make the offense go, um, in my opinion. And that's, you give them certain concepts and different things to do, and you kind of go from there. Uh, I think if everyone likes people who make shots. We need guys that make shots. We need shot makers and playmakers, not shooters and players. We have a lot of those. We need guys that can make key shots at the right time and make plays at the right time. And then defensively, we are who we are. But I just think Tibbs get, of course, just like any other organization, the person in charge normally gets the blame for everything. But I just know he's preparing himself, his staff. He has a system, just like everyone else has a system, um, and he's giving them opportunities to be successful within what they're trying to do. But like I said, it's going to come down to how do the guys play within the system. But I'm just not a big ISO team, and guys standing around watching one guy pound the basketball, consistently. That's just me.
Yeah, definitely appreciate that, and I appreciate what you said about him allowing the players to empower themselves and perform. So I think that's very key. So appreciate your answer, Charlie, and thanks again for joining us for sure.
My pleasure. I appreciate you guys having me.
Absolutely. It's your man, Stan Knicks Recap and Smooth. Charlie Ward is our guest. Shout out to you, Mr. Charlie Ward. Appreciate your time. It was an absolute pleasure. Looking forward to the next time having you again. This is our second time seeing you. Hopefully we can see you in season as well. That would be a pleasure as well. But thank you again for your time. Have a great evening.
All right. Appreciate it. Y'all guys.
Thank you, Charlie.
Everyone have a great evening.
Thank you, guys. Come on, guys. Clap emojis in the chat for Charlie. Everybody, thank you so much for your time, Charlie. Again, Charlie doesn't have to do this for us. Like, gee, that's a lot of claps, Stan. Wow, that's a lot of claps. Charlie didn't have to do this for us, but the fact that he did is very, very important because, again, to get a little bit of the knowledge, a little bit of the information that's in his head, I think it's worthwhile for all of us just to get an understanding of that. So shout out to him. Charlie Ward gives some of the best interviews that I've ever had. I've interviewed a couple of players in my time. I've interviewed Charlie twice now, and each and every time, he's been real. He's been authentic. He's been able to answer questions from the fans, regardless of if they're filtered or not, and he has no qualms about giving his truth and unfiltered opinion on what he feels about the Knicks, Tom Thibodeau, and obviously, as you've heard, Julius Randle. Some of the biggest takeaways from what he said was about team basketball, and that's what I want to highlight. He spoke about Julius Randle and his isolation play, and he said, even as a coach himself, he doesn't like it, he doesn't like to see it, and he doesn't coach that way. He likes to coach in an offense that is free-flowing, that passes the ball. The New York Knicks were one of the worst teams in terms of passing the ball last season. If they can get better at that this season, they can definitely take their stake and maybe creep up to take that third seed in the East. Because again, like I said, it's absolutely open. And even Charlie Ward said he can see the Knicks getting that seed or maybe the fourth or even fifth seed, depending on how they start, what they do, what their players do, and how big of a leap they take. And I think there's a lot of factors into it, but I agree with Charlie Ward. The Knicks are definitely in the running to take that third spot if things go right for them. But you gotta respect the legend in Charlie Ward, what he said, all of the great information that he gave us, but the Julius Randle stuff with the isolation play, wanting to pass more, wanting the team to play more passing mentality basketball, where everybody's touching the ball, everybody's getting the ball, and you know how it feels when you play basketball. If you're touching the ball, you're more focused and you're more engaged. And as a coach, you know Charlie Ward knows that. And absolutely, you have to take it and you have to agree with him here because there's no ways around it. If the team plays like that more often, I think the Knicks will be an absolutely dangerous team. If they step away from the ISO ball, they can be an unlocked, better team than they were last year. If they keep going ISO level, they might get where they were last year, but given how strong the East is, they might not even be able to get back to there. So they got to be careful and watch how they play headed into the season. But if the preseason is any indication, I am very, very excited for what to see headed into the season. Jalen Brunson looks like he's ready to play basketball tomorrow. He looks absolutely ready. Julius Randle has a pass-first mentality, it seems like. And it seems like he's comfortable playing that third role for this New York Knicks team and giving the reins to Jalen Brunson and to R.J. Barrett. And again, I understand it's only one preseason game, but we're going to monitor it. We're going to look for it. And if we continue to see it, in my opinion, it'll be a welcome change for Julius Randle. If you check the videos and you looked at what I said about Randle, I said for the New York Knicks to be unlocked and take that next step, he needs to embrace a pass-first mentality. And if he does that, the New York Knicks can take that next step. I saw a little bit of that during this first preseason game. And if I continue to see that, I'm going to be very, very happy. But let me know what you guys thought. What did you think about Charlie Ward's comments on the space that we had? Did you agree with them? Did you disagree? And if you did disagree, what exactly did you disagree about? Let me know in the comments because honestly, guys, I would love to hear from you. But that's going to do it for this episode. Go ahead and smash that like button if you like this video. Don't forget to leave a comment below. And of course, guys, please subscribe to the channel. Until next time, Knicks fans. Peace.